Fellow carpenters, you better start getting used to this. What is that, you ask? I'm going to tell you what that is. I don't know if you've seen them or not, but this is my first introduction to them. And I guess I'm not really for them or against them. I understand the principle and I agree with it. But I think this attachment system has a long way to go. And what we're talking about is ledger attachment to brick veneer houses for a deck structure. And I don't know how new or old this is. I think it's fairly recent because my carpenter buddy that's helping me with this deck just retired about a month ago, and he's never seen them. So, you know, and we both worked at the same company. I worked there for 5 years. He worked there for 25 years. That's how we met and became really good friends. So it's a real blessing that he's on this project because I can go dig holes and he can lay out the stairs. It's just total trust, and he's just a supreme carpenter, mentor on down the line. So this is what these buggeroons look like. And we'll end up, I think we pulled all the tap cons. But what this is trying to do is isolate the shear force or the downward force and eliminate any kind of load on the brick veneer, which of course, brick veneer starts at the foundation on a shelf, but there's a gap between your boxing or your, I call it boxing, sheeting, your wall sheeting. There's a space anywhere from a half up to an inch. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. On this particular product, there is a maximum wall thickness that you can use for this. So I don't know what you do if you're, obviously if it's full masonry, then you can go ahead and hang it like normal. You can attach, but I've never hung a ledger on a full masonry building, so I can't really speak to that. I'm really glad the landscaping guys turned the blower on while I'm trying to do this video. But anywho, that's what those puppies look like installed. And when I was researching these guys and trying to find out while I was drawing the plans to the deck, how in the heck you install this thing, I ran into one construction company that had a pretty slick video on it. But it really didn't get into it didn't get into the practical aspect of it. It was just like a 2-minute blurb showing a crew of 3 or 4 guys putting it on. Incidentally, this is something that I would not put on with one person. It takes a minimum of 2 people to get this safely up and correctly installed. So anyway, here's how it comes. You have the mounting plate. You have your band board standoff. In other words, this threads through this hole, which I'll have to let you guys look at this 2x4 for a minute, and I will go ahead and thread this. So this is your adjustable standoff. And it has a template, which I don't have down here, which you need to use the template. And you do need to follow the instructions as far as layout goes up to a certain point. This is my opinion. Okay, whoops, almost, did I turn the video off? Oh, I didn't turn the video off. Almost dropped the phone and turned the video off. But, so, what you need to do, and we're using 2x10s, and I tell you what, these lags, these hardened lags, galvanized, are so long we were terrified that we were going to come through the floor. That's how long they are. I think they're 14 inches, something like that, maybe 12. But so that is definitely something that you want to calculate before you start installing these. especially if you've got 2x10 floor joists. If you have 2x12, I think you're probably less likely for that to happen. So anywho, what you need to do is lay out your ledger board on your brick at elevation, top and bottom, and know where that's going. And then you need to, and this is what we did was we just in about 4 places we tap conned that ledger on just to have it up there and to have a definite, you know, that's the thing that I did not like about the Simpson, basically a cartoon, just showing, you know, a perfect situation and a perfect, you know, cartoons, you know, it's like, well, you know, or it's kind of like a print sometimes, you know, it's like, well, we'll just cantilever this and that, and, you know, and then you get out in the field and you're like, how, what are you guys thinking? So anywho, you lay that ledger out. We put it up there and we snapped a brick joint. This is going through a brick joint. This is not going through a brick. Underline, going through a brick joint, not going through a brick. So coming up here, I believe, yes, that's our brick joint that we chose. And so that kind of determines where that plate's gonna go. You can't just mount this to the bottom edge and go about your business. What you wanna avoid is blowing up the brick, which I will get to more on that as I get further along. So what you do is you locate your center line, and then you take your, you know, then and these are going in between every joist, so you try to center it up on that 14 3/8 space. So we'll just say, boom, that's where that puppy's gonna go. So now I have to take this guy off again, one-handed. Oh, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good picture. Can you already see the ridiculousness of where this is going? How many did we put up? We put up 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. It took 2 seasoned carpenters all morning to get that in. And like I said, I understand the principle. I'm waiting to see the results over time. So anyway, so that's how that lines up. I don't know if you can see those center lines in there. This hole, these smaller holes are for your hardened strong drive, special super duper Simpson strong tie screws that actually mount the plate to the wood and hold it in position. So what we did was we took our template and let me think, what did we actually do here? Okay, that's right. I'm wrong. Your center line lines up with this hole. These holes have nothing to do with really anything. I guess you could put a lag bolt in those if you wanted to. Don't know. But you have to, we're going to reiterate this brick joint. This is a brick joint. You lay this out on your 2x10, 2x12, and your pattern, or your pattern plate will locate all of these holes. It's going to locate this standoff hole, and it's going to locate these 2 holes. And if you can see this little bell right here, this hole and that bell equals 40 degrees. Oh yes, indeed. You are going to be drilling 2 40-degree holes through your ledger and through your brick. But the first hole you'll drill is this hole. And it's not a small hole. It's 1 1/8 inches. That's a big bit, and that's a big chipping hammer. The medium to small duty hammer drills, really, if you have a lot of holes to do, they're not gonna, they might get overheated, but they just don't have the oomph. Once you get over 3/4 of an inch with those drills, they just don't have what it takes to get through it and to be efficient and whatnot. I guess I'll stand on the other side here because I'm getting a shadow going. So we took our band off and we put it on the ponies, orienting it correctly so you don't screw it up. We didn't lay out anything on the brick other than our band board. The directions for the Simpson cartoon have you laying it out on the brick and going through all this rigmarole and freehanding a 40-degree hole. And we just saw way too much margin for error at the time of all of this getting installed. So, Simpson, is this still going? Yeah. Simpson, if you don't like it, put out a better video. Anyway, so let's see, I've got to turn, oh, I did turn it around. Okay, so we got our marks with the template, and what we did was we knew that this middle hole for this was going to be square to the brick and square to the ledger board. And if I say band board in place of ledger board, please forgive me. Everything looks like a band board. So then our 40-degree holes, you know, we'll just, for the sake of, since I don't have a template here, our 40-degree holes, this is why it was great having at least 2 people. We took a 2x4 and we put a 40-degree angle on it. And one guy held, and I guess you could do this with a screw if you're by yourself, but the main reason to have more than one person is for installation. I mean, you'll be standing, if you're one person trying to get a 16-foot ledger board on the house, you'll be standing on your head. Treated lumber's heavy, it's just safer. Have scaffold board, don't try to do this on a ladder. We have the Baker scaffolding going and a ladder, and so we were able to we didn't really have, quote unquote, any problems other than the ridiculousness of the situation. Like I said, not for it, not against it. I would just like something to be, I understand the concept, I would just like it to be more, just easier to install. It took to really morph this into practically installing it. It took some thought, a lot of thought. So, I mean, moderate thought. Okay, so anyway, we've got our holes, and we just went down, we marked out all 11 on the ledger, keeping it oriented, and then we drilled our square holes first, 1 1/8 inch. 1 1/8 hole. All of the holes are 1 1/8 inch. Then when it came time to drill the 40-degree holes, one guy held this, and I suppose if you want to be super accurate, you could get a radial drill press and make yourself a block that attaches to it and, you know, attaches to the ledger and have a perfect 40-degree hole. But this worked pretty well. So you have one guy holding this and one guy holding the drill at 40 degrees with the paddle bit, a sharp paddle bit, because you're going through. If you have to get 3 or 4, so you don't have to stop. So we drilled our 40-degree holes and drilled our whole 40-degree holes at 1 1/8 inch and went on down the line. So once we had that, we felt pretty confident. We were feeling pretty good about it. And we didn't feel bad about it the whole time. We were just kind of scratching our heads as to, you know, because I think you're going to see this being called for on brick veneer. I agree with the principle that load needs to be taken off of brick veneer, because when I took this portion of the old band board off, all above that door there were broken bricks, and they had over tightened the lag shields, and they had crushed a lot of brick. So that's a problem. So anyway, we've got all of our holes drilled in our band, and the good thing about the Tapcons is that it's going to put your ledger right back where it was. and that's a good thing. So then we tacked it back with the Tapcons, and we took said hammer drill and proceeded. We drilled our square holes to the wall, and then having pre-drilled the 40-degree hole in the band board actually gave us a jig for drilling the 1 1/8" hole at 40 degrees. One note we had was that that type of the bit does not like brick joints. It tends to get hung up. So we actually had both of us. We had one guy controlling the trigger, and we had and semi-guiding it, and then we had the other guy, well, more or less guiding it, but then we had the other guy with his hand underneath the drill to support and take some of the weight off of it, and that helped enormously with drilling those 40-degree holes. So next step, you have all your holes drilled. Now you're ready to put your standoff in. So you put your standoffs in, and this is an important step. You put your standoffs in, and I'm not going to do it because I don't want to monkey with the camera because you can see them up there. You put your standoffs in, and then you put your bracket up, and we just ran a speed square down to make them look all consistent, not all wonky looking. We put our standoff in, and then we attached the small screws, as you can see right there. And so that plate itself is mounted. Now, in order to execute, to my mind, in order to execute a proper installation, you don't run those long screws next. That's important. Don't run those long screws next. You tighten your standoff until it hits the band board and you're snug against the band board. Not, don't monkey wrench it down. I just had a little crescent wrench that I put around that, and I tightened it down with those tiny screws in until I hit the band board. And it's important to figure out approximately where your long legs are going in and how far they're going to go in. You need to be aware of that because they are long enough. If those brackets are up high enough, you're going to come right through the finished floor on the interior of the house. No joke. So anyway, you get your standoff against the house, and then you just put your ginormously oil drilling long screws in. And I didn't over tighten it. I waited until I saw just a tiny bit of grab. They have a lock washer type of scenario on the back side of all the screws. So they have a lock washer type of thing going on. And that's pretty much it. But, so anyway, the only reason I'm putting, well, not the only reason, but the reason I'm putting this video out is that when I did my search, hello, and here's the inspector. I'll catch you guys later. Hey friends, sorry about the interruption. That was the inspector coming to inspect those footers, and we passed, so no problem. We can pour concrete and continue framing tomorrow. Anyway, getting back to these, I think the BV in these attachment brackets stands for bring volume. I'm not sure. Let's see. So anyway, we put our band back up with Tapcons. And keep in mind, I think I've said this, the whole point of it is to isolate the brick veneer and put no appreciable pressure, lateral pressure or downward pressure on the brick, because there's very little steel in it. It's just the little brick tabs, and it's easily, with the right amount of force, it can deteriorate over time. So let's see. So yeah, I went through the installation. Most important thing I can say is crank that standoff the inspector did look at them, and he said, yeah, that they are new. They're relatively new. So he said a lot of the newer homes that are brick, full brick, already have the ledger, which is true. The ledger for the deck is already in place, whether you build it when you're building your house or put it on later. They take out the brick and attach the ledger. Or you can go freestanding, which means piers and columns at the house. And but anyway, so we are. I think that about covers it. It's always good to stay in touch with your building inspectors. Everything that we have planned so far, things got scaled back a little bit on the structure, so we're not adding quite as much wood. There was a sunroom that was in play, and now that's kind of been swapped out for a slab all the way down here. But I guess I would say I hope this helps somebody, because they're not fun to put in. They just aren't fun. And I guess my other question to Simpson is, you know, when you have a drill this size and a drill, a hammer drill, you know, you're probably going through the face of the brick, okay, but by the time if you have a dead airspace behind the brick, you're probably going to be blowing the backside of that brick off. So maybe that's something to think about. That's one aspect of it that I don't like at all. But that's what the building inspector wanted, and that's what they got. And yeah, I think that about covers it. The Bring Valium Ledger System by Simpson Strong Tie. All right, you guys. I got to get moving. I got to go put some shutters in. I love you all. Everybody be kind. Spread the kindness. Just spread, engage with people. You know, spread good, positive stuff. Yeah, I think stuff covers it. Don't be a downer. Anyway, more coming. Hickory tomorrow, or I guess by the time you see this, it'll be today. So anyway, take care of yourselves. More soon.